Welcome back, everybody, to Markonomics 101 presents Hoot Loot, the place to be informed, be amused, but never be misled. The place that has these cool Hoot Loot t-shirts that I'm always wearing because we have such a great artist in Katie Dipsich who does a great job at our arts, and we have great tchotchkes to show you. I'm always huckstering them. But in any event, today's show is called Chaotic Markets Continue and Continue and Continue and Continue. And I could say another continue after that. But things are crazy out there. And I'm going to show a little bit about how they're crazy and maybe how you should kind of reduce your exposure, because this is no time. The market could go just any place right now, and it really looks irrational like I've never seen. So if you'd like, hit like and subscribe right here, and we'll be back with the charts in just a second. Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to show you this first chart, which is very unusual, but it shows what Americans think of the billionaires. And look who leads the pack, none other than Mark Zuckerberg, the scam artist of the century. We've talked about him enough. We're not going to give him any more free publicity today. But also, you see some other people like Oprah Winfrey at 45%. I don't know who hates her that much, but this is an interesting chart. Richard Branson is actually the most favored at the bottom, and Bezos and Gates have probably risen in the rankings. Warren Buffett no longer has an association with Bill Gates, but he now has an association, I have read, with George Soros. So he's it looks like he may have traded down. Anyway, we're going to have more on that next week. We have so much information on how these guys are working together. An example being that Fauci, who has lied to the American people about the severity of COVID and all that and the flu. Basically, he's been working with Mark Zuckerberg on his truth tellers, his fact checkers that don't check any facts at all, that probably don't even exist. But they've been working together, and there's two evil people, even more evil now as a force together. We're going to talk about that and bring some of the examples of other people that are working together that you may not know about. I didn't know about it until I started to have my fact checker look into it, and we're going to bring you that next time we can. The markets may not warrant it, but we're going to go on to the markets right now. Bitcoin has gone below 30,000. We've told you that this thing, I right now believe that Bitcoin, all the cryptocurrencies, everything is over for all of them. And I'm going to tell you that they're not going to necessarily all go to zero. What I'm going to tell you is the craze is over. In other words, people are going to really start looking at what these things do, whether they're more than a password or not. And something like Bitcoin is going to slowly just, I think, my expectation is that it's just going to run out of air, and eventually it'll go, to a very small amount, and the usefulness of a password is going to be, revealed. So that's what I think is going to happen. Tesla is another company that actually went down today. Now, if you look at it, it really hasn't been rallying back up with the market at all. It looks like it's ready to head down. We think the market is probably in the topping process. Chaotic markets notwithstanding, they're probably topping because we think inflation is just bound to kick this market's butt. It's bound to. It's just coming on. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they broke out to a new high, but they came back. They broke it up. It's really weird. I mean, if we'd done the show yesterday, I would have said, hey, this thing is broken down. Ding, ding, time to ring the bell. And here we come bouncing back. Well, that's the thing you've got to be very careful about right now, is that opportunities will present themselves, but you have to be liquid. And so you don't want to ride this stuff out. It's going to drive you crazy. The NASDAQ 100 made a brand new high, as we've been talking about. Some of the stocks have been looking better. Some have reversed. Some have gone the other way. It's just too chaotic out there to make much sense out of. The S&P 500 looked like it was breaking down yesterday, too. I would have told you that. I would have said, hey, this thing's breaking down. But it just bounced back. Don't know exactly what's going on. Small caps are not looking good, but they bounced back. They bounced back quite a bit, but these are definitely underperforming the market. And what we're seeing is a lot of new lows and a very few new highs, even on days like today. So the market is actually in a topping process, but it's chaotic as all hell, and it's hard to understand it, except that some forces are working on it. The reason some of these things are inexplicable is because they can't exist at an equilibrium. In a free market, they can only exist artificially, and that's why someone like the Federal Reserve or central banks or whatever entities are controlling various prices here, because they're not possible in a free market. That's the whole point. They're not possible, therefore you can't make sense out of them. It's very hard, and you have to, be able to make sense out of the market to trade it. You can't here. It's really hard to do that. So we're going to go on to the transportations are coming down. They look like they're making a bull flag. Don't know what more we can say about that, but they're not looking as good. The dollar is rallying, and that continues to be a surprising thing to me and everybody else who thought the dollar was basically a piece of junk. It is a piece of junk. It shouldn't be rallying. But here's where market psychology is so important. So many people believe the dollar was going down. There's a good chance that the dollar was too short and it had to rally. I just don't know. All I know is I could never find a good comment made about the dollar ever, and I could never find a reason to make a good comment. But this graph actually looks like the dollar's going to rally. So who knows? The commodities also look like they have broken down, and then they bounced up too. So again, yesterday things looked like they had started to break down. Today they don't. So right now we're going to say, hey, just stay back, hold back, because everything doesn't make sense. Crude oil, well, this one looks like it's starting to break down a little bit too. There is some evidence the economy is breaking down slowly. There is some evidence of it. So that's what I think might be happening here. We might be seeing that. Um, Natural gas also, also up, looking really good. Unleaded gasoline broke back up. Now, again, I don't know what to make of this breaking down and breaking up stuff, but there's a very good chance that we'll see what some of the breakdowns are. And sometimes you just have to wait for more information. This is one of those times where you think you might know where it's going, but don't get wedded to any outlook, because you're just as likely to be wrong as you are to be right. And that's where I found myself on many occasions. The agriculture fund is actually bounced back up. It looks like it is coming back. Food prices are headed higher. I don't think they will be headed lower under any circumstances, but we'll see. Livestock also is in a topping process, but still high price. Sugar too. Sugar has had a bounce back, a bounce up, a bounce back. Everything is bouncing around like a pinball machine, and this is one of them. Or maybe it's had too much sugar and it's on one of those sugar highs. Like, ah! Like when I hear stimulus check, when no, I'm not gonna get crazy today. You can bet. I'm in my Hulu t-shirt. Come on, come on. All right. So base metals are kind of like those things like iron and lead and all that. They continue to look like they're rallying. We'll know more, but again, no reason to think that this rally is transitory. Copper's down quite a bit in price, and so it is an important thing to look at because it does have so much value in terms of being correlated to the economy. It's even called Dr. Copper by some, but it really is pretty important. So we've looked at it here. This doesn't look very well. I do believe that this is probably signaling that the economy is about to take a nosedive. We'll see. Alcoa too, bounced down, bounced up. Again, this one is hard again to tell, but I'm still going to stick with the fact that maybe this is part of keeping people full. It's very hard to stay on the horse here, but because you're being bucked and bucked and bucked. But this is one of those times. Palladium, all over the place too. Oops, and we went past my favorite gold. I don't know what to tell you. The gold looks terrible. Silver looks terrible. I mean, it looks like it bounced a little bit here, but it just doesn't. I just don't understand it, but it doesn't look good. Silver also looks like it's broken down. Now, I don't think it's really got that much risk to it, in my personal opinion. But on the other hand, you got to look at the charts and you got to say they're breaking down. One of the things that we've also looked at is gold and silver miners, and they are just getting clobbered. I mean, they look like they're ready to break some 1 year support and make new lows. So right now, I don't look at this as a sector that has any immediate potential, and we've looked at everything on those. Treasury inflation protected securities tips, these continue to move higher. They have moved down a couple days, but in general, these are moving higher with inflation. 3-month Treasury yields now at 50 basis points. Fed, Jay, are you listening? He who thinks interest rates are zero, they're really at 50 basis points. Okay. 5-year yields, this one is the biggest surprise to me. 5-year yields broke all the way down to like 65 basis points. I mean, these things were looking at like 90 or a percent not that long ago, and all of a sudden they broke down. This is not indicative of a healthy economy. That rates this short are breaking down right here with inflation. I mean, this just does not look good. Now, if you want to see something that looks even worse, look at this. You want to see something that looks even worse? Look at this. Look at the 30 years. These things, now, they're saying, oh yeah, they're up 5 basis points, whatever. But these things are generally trending lower, and they're trending lower in a hurry. The 30-year Treasuries were at almost 2.5% or around that area. They're now trading as low as 1.8, and that didn't happen in a very long time. So I'm very surprised. I will be the first to admit that I'm surprised by this, but you got to keep an eye out here. Something is telling you that we might have something like hyper depressionary stagflation. I just don't know, but this is not a normal outcome. Bitcoin Cash. Now, this is what I want. This is probably maybe one of the last times I do cryptos, and I want to make this point. I'm not an expert in cryptos, but right now this pattern looks like the kind of pattern where you're going to see about 85, 90 to 90% to 95% of the value from the top lost, and it's just going to grind lower. You see this grinding pattern toward the end, and it's just going to grind lower. And the same thing is going to happen with all of them. Now, Ethereum, I don't know where this one will end up, but it is a real company, but it will grind a bit lower. I don't know what its equilibrium value is, but I'd rather own this. At least owning this, you own something, I think. With the other one, Bitcoin, you own a bunch of air. Free passwords for everybody. Litecoin also, it just looks like it's going to grind. It's not. These things right now are not likely to have any kind of major rally for any reason that I can think of for a long time. So, the most likely scenario, and again, I want to emphasize most likely, not the only thing that can happen, but the most likely scenario in the bursting of a bubble like this is that they will finally hit something like 90%, and they will just do it grindingly lower. So you may have a day like today where they bounce, Bitcoin bounced over 30, but it looks like it's just going to grind lower. And Ripple, again, this one is the same thing. This one is going to hit a point of equilibrium. It's nothing really, I don't really know enough about what it does and how special it is, but it strikes me as very commodity-like. Other types of transmission coins that are like wiring. They're act like the old Swift system, the wiring system. So, when there's that much competition around, you're likely to not earn, big profits. And I don't know what how the token has value anyway from that standpoint. Apple has also had a very interesting up and down here. It made a new high. It came down off that new high yesterday. I thought maybe it had peaked. I don't know. Now, once again, one just doesn't know. And that's the thing about the market. You have to always incorporate real-time information, because if you don't incorporate real-time information, you lose something. And if you all of a sudden have a worldview that is different than real-time is telling you, then you do nothing. You sit back, you do the search, and Schultz saying, I do nothing, I know nothing, I see nothing. That's what you got to do. And I'm sorry, but that's the best solution to something that is incomprehensible, because it is. This is all incomprehensible. We've got Amazon, which broke up, broke down, broke up, broke down. Jeff Bezos was high up on the list there of not liked billionaires, so we will have some stuff about him too, I'm sure. That's kind of interesting. Facebook, we've talked about WhatsApp and Mark Zuckerberg and all that, and we know a heinous character when we see one, but it's still got a good stock price. If you want to know a little bit more about how he does all his scams, there's the greatest scam in America. And if you want to know more about Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin Bites Back. But some of the prior episodes, you are not going to believe the amount of information that is revealed that you'll never read, hear, or see in the lamestream media, but you'll hear it from us, because what the hell? We tell the truth, and that's the way we like it. So Microsoft is still just performing like crazy, pulling up the NASDAQ, but it's exhaustion. I mean, this kind of behavior is exhaustion. It cannot go up at that rate of speed. So, right now, it's going to run out of money, and it's run out of, sponsorship. It's just going to chug, 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 and fall. But I don't know, not yet. NVIDIA, look at that. Now that thing broke, and I thought yesterday that was kind of interesting, and today look at the bounce. So again, it's a very strange market. The airline index also broke and came back, and that is looking not very good. Transportation is not looking good. That's one of the reasons I still do lean to an economically bad outcome ahead of us. I think that right now there's so much made of the recovery and all that it just doesn't show up in places you'd think it would. Um, Here's American Airlines that looks really bad. That broke down, came back, snapped back a little bit. Alaska Airlines, same thing, looked really bad. Another one here, United, that one looks really bad too. I mean, all of them are telling us maybe all the good news had been factored into them, and these don't show something that would you know be consistent with the robust type of coming back of the consumer. But some things are showing that, so that's why we're confused. It's kind of like Confucius when you know they didn't know what his name was. They asked him what his name was. He goes, I don't know, I'm confused. And then all of a sudden he became Confucius. I don't know. That's what I hear, but I don't know. Anyway, we've got the bank index here. It's kind of a rounded top, although it hasn't quite broken down yet. And I mean, these things, it just blows my mind. They just hang on, hang on. You keep me hanging on. Like the old Supreme song, Diana Ross. You keep me hanging on. It's just like they keep us hanging on. Um, and the broker dealer index, that looked like it had broken down, and that looks like it now bounced back. So I don't know what the hell. The day of the week matters now exactly in what how yesterday I would have been like so proud of myself thinking, oh yeah, you called the top and the market looks really terrible. Today I don't know what the hell I don't know what the hell to think, other than the fact that I still would think if I was a woman I'd be all over me, but I still think that, and I know you think that because I get those cards and letters all day long. Well, part of the day. Well, occasionally, once in a while, maybe once a week, something like that. Anyway, as American Express continues on a roll up, looks really good. People are buying, 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 buying. I don't know what the hell they're buying. It can't be goods made here because there are no goods made here anymore. Um, Here's a MasterCard. Now this is interesting pattern. I put this in for a reason. LS is left shoulder. The red H stands for head, and the RS is right shoulder. Now, this looks like a head and shoulders pattern, which is kind of like a rounded top. And this is a negative pattern. This looks like it is, that last right shoulder was less vibrant than the head before it. And if it breaks through that red line, which is kind of referred to as the neckline, then that becomes a negative pattern. This one is worth watching here right now because this is a negative pattern as I look at it, as I see it. Costco, however, can't say anything negative about that. I don't know I don't know what's going on here, but this thing has just blasted off. Look, I mean, the move, in such a short period of time, just from March, the move is 315 to 415, and just March alone, just incredible move. Target, same thing. It is just soared and apparently executed very well. And I think that's what people continue to say about it, that it executes very well, and that Target is not viewed really as that kind of discount poor man's Walmart retailer anymore. It is really viewed, it has a much more branded view that lends itself to, a different kind of shopper, a different demographic. CVS Health has ground down. It shot up, ground down. Now, I don't know if this means we haven't got enough jabs or whatever the hell it is, but this thing does carry all items. It's an important company. It's just grinding down. So I don't know why, but we get different signals from different companies, and that's what makes everything so confusing. Like Walgreens. Okay, for example, Walgreens here, has broken down out of a rounded top, and it just looks terrible. Walmart has kind of gone sideways, so that's another weird one. It's a Dow component. McDonald's, it looked like it broke down, and all of a sudden it's broken up. We don't show this very often, but it's such a huge company and a Dow component. So Caterpillar looked like it had broken down, started to break down, and then all of a sudden we put the blue box around to show you how it bounced back up. Again, things look like they're breaking down, and then the minute they look that way, they start going the other way. So it's a really choppy market. I went too far here. Dow Holdings, this is one of the infrastructure companies. This one has broken down. It's broken down from support, and it had a little bit of a bounce. So, they're already pricing in some kind of infrastructure bill. And then Ford, all of a sudden this thing spurted up, and then this thing started breaking down. So auto companies they all are looking that way, and there's a shortage in of semiconductor chips and all that. But I mean, Ford just looks terrible. And last but not least, this is the biotech ETF, the symbol BBH. I put this in here because the biotech business is a very good place, especially when you're creating those nice little cocktails of chemicals that people are going to be forced to have administered onto them someday at some point. Anyway, next week we're going to talk about the billionaires and how some of them link to some of the most heinous things that we've talked about in the past, like in scam vesting and all that kind of thing. But I want to thank you very much for tuning in today, and we're going to be back on Saturday. And if you would like and subscribe, it's right down here. And keep those letters coming in at least once a week, so I don't feel like you hate me. Anyway, we'll see you then.